Hello, good morning or good afternoon, depending of where in the world you're watching. Thank you for joining us on the third day of the A4Q World Congress. Today we have the first speaker joining us with us right now, Aditya Mirza. I hope I'm pronouncing that correctly still.
Perfect.
um, great. Thank you so much. So today we have him joining us today. And then I'm going to mention you just a little bit about Tijas for those that don't know him. So I'm going to just tell you a little bit and not take too much of his time because he has a great presentation ahead of us and to show you. For those, just a quick reminder, this presentation, it is live. So if you do have any questions, we're going to do a very quick Q&A at the end of his presentation. So any questions, just put them in the comment section down below and we will take a look at those afterwards. So for those that don't know, Aditya Mirza is a software testing enthusiast, test engineering manager, and the president of the Indonesian Software Testing Board. A little bit about his presentation as well. So in Agile teams could be small, big, and it always demanding fast, accurate, and efficient ways to test and deliver the features to the user. This presentation will talk about the plans, costs, and benefits of the shift-left testing approach for the Agile team and how it can make your testing process easier and more efficient. So I'm not going to take too much of your time, Aditya. I'm going to put your presentation on screen, and thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you, Andrea. Okay, hello everyone. Let's start the presentation. Thank you for having me here and nice to meet you all virtually and hope that this pandemic will end soon so we can meet again in person someday. Okay, today I will try to share my experience of shift left testing and its benefit for your agile team. Okay, what are we going to talk today? It's about shift left testing. Here's the outline of our sessions today. It's about introduction, quick data update, common testing approach, shift left testing, benefit in Agile, pro and cons, and at the very end, we will have a question and answer sections. So make sure you are in and make sure you already take some snacks, maybe if you are not fasting, or yeah, just enjoy. Let's start it. Before we started, let me introduce myself a bit. My name is Aditya Mirza Bahari. People call me with Aditya or Mirza. It depends on what type of friends. Okay, I am the founder and the president of Indonesia Software Testing Board. I also work as test engineering manager in one of Indonesia's online marketplace called Bukalapak. And since it's really hard to find any documentations or any lecturer or any tutorial about software testing in my country, in Indonesia, I also actively to create a podcast content in Spotify and Google Podcasts. It's called Ngobrol QA. Is it in Indonesian language? So yeah, feel free to visit my podcast and feel free also to listen it over yours. Preferred Spotify or Google podcasts. And I also actively participated in Indonesia Software Quality Assurance Community, which is right now the largest QA community in Indonesia that have more than 5,000 active members in Telegram groups. And we sometimes, before the pandemic, we also having some offline sessions, go to your office and talk about software testing and sharing a lot of software testing industry and also software testing technique there. Okay, that's all for introduction about myself. Uh, because I am coming from Indonesia, so I will let you know short and brief about Indonesia. Many of you even don't know where Indonesia is, and maybe you have heard about Bali, and usually it is more famous than Indonesia itself. Have you ever been there? If yes, maybe you can share it to us or comment in the comment section your experience when visiting Indonesia. The fact is, Bali is only one of islands in Indonesia that, of course, has a very beautiful scenery, beautiful beach, beautiful mountain, and we have a various traditional culture, but we have many more beautiful places except Bali for you to go. And also we have a unique culture like I'm wearing today. It's called batik. Maybe someday you visit Indonesia, you can have your own batik, a traditional shirts from Indonesia. In short, Indonesia is number 4 populous country in the world. We have 267 million people, and we consist about 17,000 plus island. We also have 34 province and 700 unique language. And yes, we have a lot of beautiful scenery, mountains, beaches, and we also have a modern city in Jakarta and Bali also. Okay, that's short and brief about Indonesia. Hope someday we can meet and hope someday we can visit Indonesia. You can visit Indonesia also. Feel free. Okay, before we jump into our main topics, let's see some data. In terms of internet user versus population, almost 74% of Indonesian people are using the internet, and 125% of Indonesian people are using mobile communication or smartphone, which means there are several people that have more than one mobile phone in Indonesia. And the smartphone usually have so much apps or application that developed by tech company. On the other hand, if we are looking for global data of internet user and mobile phone user, we have this data and still it's a big number. And if we are looking of top 10 countries in the world by numbers of startups as January 2021, Indonesia is top 4 on the list, and still United States of America be the number 1 on the top of the list. So what does it mean? It means that people needing a technology, it still need a technology. Or if you are talking about specific topic, people can't go outside of their comfort by bringing their smartphone with so many applications installed inside the phone. And what does it mean in the software testing industry? It will need more testing because if the number of user of the application increasing, which means it will continue to be developed an application and the same time it will be needing the testing or software testing. Okay, before we can continue to the software testing specific, in terms of methods of lifecycle management, we know 2 famous methods, which is an agile, or we can say it's an iterative way, and waterfall, or sometimes we call it sequentials. Have you ever heard about this or implementing on your team? Maybe you can share some thoughts on the comment section. Okay. Waterfall methodology is a sequential approach that divides the SDLC to distinct phases such as requirement gathering, analysis, and design coding and unit testing. And also system and user acceptance testing and develop to start operate the features after the development. The next phase can only proceed if the previous phase has been completed. In between phases, a deliverable is expected, or at least a document is already signed off. All phases pass through and complete only once, so all requirements are gathered as much as possible at the start to provide the information in creating the plan, schedules, budget, and resources. It is plan-driven, so any changes after the project has started would offset the original plan and require a restart. On the other hand, Agile methodology is a team-based approach that emphasizes rapid deployment of a functional application with a focused customer satisfaction. It has a few steps and all the steps will be iterated again soon as the product has been released. The steps are including requirement, or usually me with my team, I am with my team, do such as a grooming session to groom the ideas before it will change into a design or development. Then the next step after we explain about requirement and define some backlog, we can go to the design. This is the important step to decide what kind of architecture or user interface you and your team want to build. Then we can continue to the development, which I preferably say that this is the magic side of the development because we meet the magicians, which is the developer. Why I call the developers like a magicians, because the developers will do their magic to change a cup of coffee into a code or into a programs. So have you ever heard about the developers need more coffee to write more programs? Yeah, please let me know in the comment section. Okay. Uh, Luckily, in Agile, the methodology have a testing phase after the development phase, which is not too bad because at least we have one. Because sometimes and somehow the software testing tends to be skipped by because of the less importance, because maybe people not really aware about the importance of software testing. Yeah, sometimes it tends to be skipped on the development phase, but in the agile, it will have a testing step. So yeah, not too bad. And yeah, my presentation today will explain a better approach of testing in agile environment. Okay. Speak more about agile methodology. It defines a time box space called a sprint. So like a sprint one, and then iterate again to sprint two, and release again, and develop again to sprint three. At the start of the each sprint, a list of deliverables are prioritized based on customer input, or usually we call it by backlog. And at the end of the sprint, the team and the customer will sit together to review and evaluate the work with notes for the future sprint. As a methodology based on general principles, more specific method based on processes such as Scrum and Kanban are called type of agile methodology. Okay, let's have some example here. Imagine that we are the CTO of startup company. Just imagine you are the CTO and you have a 10 squad or 10 teams, and each team has a different business goals and different business target and business focus. As a CTO, it is very important that every team has a proper and balanced team members between the engineers, which is the developers, or between the testers, also the maybe another stakeholder like product manager, product owner, product designer. So in this example, we need 20 software tester. Because of what? Because of, on my experience, on ideal ratio, we need at least 2 software tester for every 5 developers in one team or squad. Otherwise, if this number of or if this ratio is not fulfilled, your tester will feel like a burnout, and yeah, maybe the testing strategy or your tester will feel so not good. Yeah, and it's also bad an example if you have less tester. And yeah, we also need to make sure that all the tester having some same speed, same soft skill or skill set, and great communication skill set to communicate with each other. For example, if the tester want to talk with the developers about the technical side, or the tester should have talk with the product owner or the graphic designer or even the business analyst. So in this case, as a CTO, you have to make sure that your team has an ideal ratio. Okay, some fun rules about agile and software testing is In an agile world, teams are being asked to move and release faster. Being agile, it means to be more efficient and effective in terms of manpower and resources. So yeah, we also need to work as a small team instead of a big one. At the same time, they are faced with the increased pressure to reduce the testing costs because sometimes the testing takes a lot of time or a lot of resources. So yeah, the agile tends to push the testing time into the very last of the phase of the development, reducing the length of the time to delivery while still continuing to improve the quality of each release is also to be one of the challenge if your team decide to have an agile methodology as your development type. So let's move next. Okay, let's have some graphical between number of testing in every step of the software development. If we reflect our previous case, like 20 test engineer on 10 squad or 10 teams, we do nothing in the early phase of development. Because of what? Because all of the testing in the traditional testing model are on the right side. So if we are looking on this slide, there are requirement, design, development. So whenever it starts to the testing phase, and the support, or maybe between testing and support, there is a release time. So the traditional testing method are applying this. So if in terms of number of test cases, boom, at the end of the right after the developer finish their jobs, the test engineer or the quality assurance team start to busy to test all of the features that has built by developers. Sometimes it will work flawlessly, but it only happen in a beautiful world, which the real world would be far different from this. Typically, the development itself will get an issue or a major changes from your user or from your client. And yeah, it always be a disaster for the rest of the team, especially for testers, because all of testing progress in the last time or the previous time they have been done will be a bit useless and need a major improvement of the test cases. And guess what? They also need to retest again all of the new features using the new set of the scenario or the test cases. This is the traditional testing model. And let's see. So is there any better way to do testing in fast-paced environment like Agile? The answer is yes. We can implement shift-left testing. This method was invented in 2001. The use of the term shift-left testing appears in the article published at Dr. Dobbs, which is the author of Larry Smith Wright's publication. And after Agile methodology become really famous, spread all over the world, and this approach also massively being used to complete an Agile method. And the shift left it's also continue to be used as the complement approach to be tested in using an Agile methodology. So what is shift left testing? If we are looking on the image of the slide, it shows that on the right side is a traditional way to test. Usually it's happen or it will be tested after the development, or maybe in the farther way, sometimes it gonna be tested in the production. Yeah, with all that risk, yeah, I hope that your company won't apply it anymore. Especially if you are the startups, yeah, maybe you can use this shift left approach. Okay, the movement to shift left or shift the test left is about moving critical testing practice to earlier in the development life cycle. The movement is the ideas is to the oftenly tested and tested early. So we usually call it by TETO, test early and test oftenly. Okay, starting from the far before the test new code on the slide, there are a grooming session. I'm sorry, I don't put the icon there, but the grooming session usually the tester can challenge any ideas that provide by product owner or product manager based on its sanity or the ideas and possibility of the bug or defects or the whole of the program, the security, based on the tester experience before the project is started. So on this phase, we can use another approach like BDD. Have you ever heard about BDD? Behavior-driven development. Example, you can use like a Gherkin language like a given, when, and then to have a better understanding across the team. So whenever your developers or you as a tester want to build some test cases, it will use the same language with the product owner. So it will make everyone easier to understand what's the goal of the features that want to be developed. Okay, on the development phase, every code that has been created by developers should be tested. And on this particular step, it is needing, or the best approach is using the TDD or technical driven development approach, like make sure that every unit of the code has covered by unit tests. Okay, on the testing phase, or we can say that after the code is already built into a single package to be tested, we can implement all of the functional or non-functional automation tests, including the API tests, mobile app or desktop app tests, or on the non-functional sides, we can have some performance tests, stress tests, make sure the coverage of the end-to-end testing has been completely defined. On the development phase, or on the after the development and the testing phase, on the deployment phase, it is important to have like CI/CD, continuous integration and continuous deployment approach alongside with the DevOps team, maybe if you have a DevOps teams, to make sure all of the testing are running smoothly and efficiently with an autonomous ways. So it will be hassleless for your team to create, test, and deploy the features to the users. Okay, on the shift right, please left behind, because we are right now talking about shift left testing. So if we are looking back to the graph after the shift left testing applied, it will move all the numbers of testing into left, which based on my experience, this approach are more efficient, effective, and yeah, you can say is the best way to do. First, bug or defects tend to introduce or found in the requirement phase. And it's still a cheap cost if you want to fix it as soon as possible before the development was started. Let's say, for an example, your product manager somehow wants to build something really something fishy, or yeah, it's not I can say that it's impossible, a bit impossible, or in your experience, you have experience that this kind of software model or software features will introduce you to the very critical bugs or kind of that. With the shift left model or shift left testing approach, you can challenge them to make sure the ideas are sanity and the ideas are working with the previous experience. And on the last period of the development, which means really close to the release time, the tester will not burden anymore by any impossible workload. I've heard some of my colleagues talk about whenever it's come to the release phase of the application, they will work very hard until midnight, and yeah, it will burden the tester time, even though yeah, this is the job related, but the workload is somehow and somewhat impossible to be fulfilled because the push from the another stakeholder. And because of we apply the shift left model, uh, the test schema or the test is already spreaded into every step of the development. We started from the very beginning like a grooming session, and after that we can go to the unit testing. We start the test early rather than before. Does that make sense? If you have any comments, maybe you already applied this in your company or you already applied this approach within your team. Maybe you can share some comments in the YouTube or maybe in the Facebook here for someone who watch me live here. Okay, let's continue. So here's the big difference between shift left and shift right testing. Of course, the testing time, the shift left is test early and often since the initial phase of the SDLC. On the other hand, the shift right testing tests when the development has completed. In order to track a bug and defects, the shift left testing also has an advantage because the defect and bug as detected as early as it can at any stage of the development. And the opposite is the shift right find bug with the real feedback from user. So which means it will be released first and the user will get some feedback. Maybe one of the feedback is become introduced to one of two bugs. Yeah. And the third one is the communication is intensively with others since the early stage of the development. This is really important if you have a scalable team or you have team, the development, although like this situation, like everybody work from home and you are usually not talking too much with your developers, the shift left are intensively making your development team will talk much about the possibility of bug and defects since the early stage of the development. On the other hand, the shift right communication with the developer as soon as the product finished, developed by developers and ready to be tested. So yeah, it's a bit a difference between shift left and shift right. So after we know already about the difference and what is the shift left testing, what is the benefit of shift left testing? Here's some of the benefit of the implementation of shift left testing. We have a bug found fixed early, cost efficient, effective, improving the test coverage, better relationship, and save your time and resources. And also we will have a faster delivery to user, which is will make your user more happier than before. So let's take it one by one. First, of course, we'll find a bug and defects early. Yeah, just following the 7 principle of software testing, there is no software with no bug. Yeah, and it's valid here because we started testing even from the beginning of the development. For example, we can challenge the PRD, or usually it stands for product requirement documents. If you're working with the product owner, to find a hole, maybe to turn out the bugs on the user side. For a bonus, if we found bug earlier before the development started, means we can fix it and change the plan to be a better way. It will having less cost than before. So if we are looking on the bottom of the slide, cost effectiveness and cost efficient and effective, the more you go to the right development phase, the more you get back on the right of the development phase, the cost per defect or the cost per bug are increased. and it will be turned into maximum cost whenever it's already delivered to your user. Can you imagine all of your work, you have to work from scratch again because of maybe like a typos in the developer codes? Have you ever experienced this? Yeah, it's I hope that you and your team will not facing this scenario, and the best way is to make the testing as earlier as we can. So move to the next benefits, better relationship between tester and developers. Yeah, it's between cat and dogs in the development, which is the developer and the tester. You must be know that sometimes the relationship between developers and tester are not going well. And by applying shift left testing, we can make it better. Why? Because first, no one more fighting because everything is on the plate. Developer and tester will looking at the same document, or we can say that the same acceptance criteria. So it will decrease the misunderstanding between two of them. So there will be no cat and dog fighting. And the number two is tester can also help the developer to implement unit testing. Because as per we know, in the ideal way, developers should build the test for every unit built on their job. And the tester can also work with them to make sure the coverage of the unit test is already good and proper, or maybe we can say the 100% coverage. Okay, the third is, this is gonna be the most important point. Sometimes the developer have only built a program without compromising how it gonna test the program, and it's become a pain point to the tester, and it will be lead to fighting between them, between developer and tester over and over again. Of course, we don't want to those conditions happen in our development team. Shift left testing approach will help eliminate the conflict between developer and tester, because when developers see the same acceptance criteria or same documentation, they will tend to help the tester by building the code that maybe the code built by a tester friendly, or we can say that the code is testable or can be tested. Okay, so it will have a better relationship between tester and developers, and also improving the test coverage. Okay, this is the last benefit of the shift left testing. After we applied the right approach of the shift left testing, we can get a really precious benefit of it, which means time, resources, and happiness for your user. Because if we build a program or a code with less bug, which means we can deliver faster with the scalable resources and time. At the same time, it will make your user satisfied with your team job, because they got the features really fast. The bug is also decreasing and release faster. There are more updates every 2 weeks, yeah, and so on and so forth. So it will make your user satisfied. That's all the benefit of the shift left testing in Agile methodology. And here's the pro and cons of the shift left testing. On the pro side, if you want to have a clearer requirement stories, you will get this by applying shift left testing, because the tester will join the development team since the very beginning. Means the tester can ask more and questions and concerning about requirement or stories before it gonna be developed by the developer. And the rest of the team will also having some benefit, because shift left testing can prevent bug appear at the end of the development cycle. Release moment, we can say it's a release moment, which sometimes this is very hard for tester. Whenever they found the bugs at the time before, let's say 1 hour before release, yeah, it's gonna be frustrating for the testers and for the rest of the team. And the last one is to get early code review of automated tests. So if you are a tester, you want build an automation test, you can start to identify the element of the automation test at the very beginning. So whenever the grooming session, you can ask the developer what kind of element that they will use on the development. So you can at least have a skeleton about your automation tests. And you can also know to review assertion and usage scenario by communicating with the developers. Yeah, that's the pros, but yeah, since we know nobody's perfect, even for the shift left testing, we have some cons. Number one is miss real feedback from user. Because we test on the initial phase of the development means that we need to find another solution to get an early user feedback too. Can be done by working closely with the user experience or UX team, or we can say that the researcher, to get through the initial data or survey about the ideas and how the real user seeing it. The number two is company leadership support resistant. Whenever the company not supporting you to implement this solution because shift left testing needing an extra effort to all stakeholders to work together towards the same goals, which is for the several people who resist to any changes on the stable method, will sometimes reject this approach. And the third one is, like I said before, the last one is like your company is still running a traditional ways to develop an app or a solution. This shift left testing ideas won't fit with it because you have to convince another stakeholder to make sure this shift left testing approach are working properly. So we come to the conclusion that shift left is about shifting testing on the software to an early phase in the SDLC. Shift left model suggests a solutions designer, software engineer, and software tester must collaborate and assume responsibility for delivering high quality software. Shift left is not a process change, it's a mindset and cultural shift for an organization. So thanks for having me in this session, and let's keep in touch. And if you have any questions or queries, maybe you can ask on the comment section. And if the time is not enough, you can ask me directly with my email, mirza@idstb.org. Thank you. Back to Andrea.
Hi, thank you so much for that presentation, Mirza. Very interesting as well. Actually, I can put your email address also on screen. Just 1 second, I can add the banner very quickly so it's a bit easier for people to have a look. There you go.
Yeah, it's
And
also
we also have some comments. I was going to say, we have, so if we go from the beginning, we have a few people that were quite early, and they say idolake, which I believe you already explained to me that it
yes.
means, I believe, idol, correct?
Yeah, it's like my idol in Indonesian language. Yeah, this is too much. I think Fadli, if you were watching this is too much.
Here we have also another one that was saying from Naufal saying can wait. These were a couple of hours before we even started. Also, anyone, if you have any questions or comments, more than welcome to put them now. We have a couple of minutes still available in which we can have a look at that. So I'm just going to have a look over here. We have from also Aditya saying hello.
Yes, hello Aditya. It's the same name.
And exactly. And we have also Mochammad as well saying hello over here
Hello.
during your presentation. Al as well, apparently Superman in the photo.
Yes.
And
Superman.
Exactly. And we have over here a question from Pale.
Okay.
He says, I'm the only tester in an agile team of 12 developers, and it's really hard to define my priorities. Do you have any advice?
Yeah, I've been also faced this situation before. For me, it's one tester for 15 developers, and I know this is really hard to define your priorities based on your needs. And my advice is the first thing is you have to work closely with the developers, because I have a terms that the quality is everyone's responsibility. So whenever you are a tester and you have a lot of developers around you, that doesn't mean that the quality aspect is only your responsibility. Yeah, so the testing is only a way to make sure that the software are have a good quality. So it can be having approach like you can ask your developer to write more unit tests, so your work would be easier. Or yeah, you can. The important things, you have to work closely with the developers. Don't make them your enemy. Make them as your friend. That's my advice.
That's very good advice. We have over here a few other comments, a few people putting a few emojis of like, well
Yeah,
done.
it's like Ayo. Yeah.
We also have Data that says, love the presentations. Thank you so much for that, Data. We have also here Dio say those testing happen in staging environments or tester test the code by source code locally.
Yeah, on this particular matter, I think it really depends on what type of your team are having, because if the testing happen in the staging environment, it would be nice if you work with the rest of the team, like a product owner or product managers, to have more comprehensive test case, which is relevant with the uh, product that they want to build. Uh, the testing happen can be both, but this if we are looking for the testing by source code, it called white box testing. Maybe it's a bit different than a black box testing, or whenever, for example, you test your device using your device, it's called a black box testing. But when you test the code by source code locally, it's called the white box testing. You can test the structure of the code. You can test the method that the developer use for building the programs. Yeah, so it depends. It can be both, but I think it's really good if you have both between the staging environment or pre-production or any stage before the deployment or before the development. It's gonna be good if you are using the same environment with the developer. So any changes that apply to the staging or the package, you will get also the relevant one or the latest version of the updates from your developers. So that's maybe my question answer.
Thank you so much for that. We also have here from Faris. He says, sorry if I missed the earlier session. Faris, that's no problem. All the sessions are recorded. So if you missed the beginning or a previous presentation from the other days, you can still catch them on YouTube, LinkedIn, and Facebook. They are going to be posted there as well. We have all of the links in the A4Q World Congress website, which actually is at the bottom of here. So if you missed any, you still have time to go watch along. And also, if you might still have the chance to speak with some of the speakers. If you go to the Congress Hall area, we're going to have there as well some of the speakers going and interacting with different participants. And we also have training providers there and many other things. So if you're interested in that, or your question was not answered, you can also go there as well. He also asked, we're running a little bit out of time, but I'm going to just quickly go for the next couple of questions. He also asked, who could create the BDD scenario at the beginning? Is it QA or should it be the product team, product manager? When it should be the prepared at the grooming phase or after the grooming?
Wow, it's a lot of questions in one
Multiple part
section.
questions.
Multiple part questions. Okay, I will ask in the very fast things. Who should create the BDD scanner at the beginning? I suggest you the product manager, because they are the ideas is coming from their side. So yeah, the BDD scenario, it's used to have the same understanding like Gherkin language given when and then. So there will be no, oh, I cannot read your code because I don't know what are you built for. I don't know. So the BDD scenario is an approach to ideally have the same understanding of the requirement. And is it QA? Yeah, I suggest the PM, or it should be the product team. Yeah, PM. And when it should be prepared, I think it's before the grooming phase. So whenever the grooming phase, you and your team it's already seen the same documents. So the same documents, including the acceptance criteria and the goals of the features that you want to build. So yeah, ideally, I think before the grooming phase. But if you want to shift about right a bit, yeah, it's okay to have after the grooming.
Thank you. We have also over here say, hi, can you give me an example of the biggest issue you found by using shift and left testing or more important issue?
Yeah, the challenge is sometimes people are not supporting us, like the developers. If you want to have more unit tests, the developers should think like, yeah, the testing is part of my responsibility. So whenever I build any features or any unit or any code, it will be have a following unit test with a good coverage. So that's the most hardest part, because you have to change the culture of the way they work. So yeah, I think that one or most important issue you have to make sure before you can apply the shift left testing.
Thank you for that. We have Pale again, once again saying, thanks a lot for your presentation, Mirza.
You're very
Um,
welcome.
we also have some extra comments here saying quality is everyone's responsibility. Thanks. And then
Okay.
we have also another comment by Arum with a couple of clap emojis. Very
Well,
well done.
actually,
Everyone
she
loves
is.
us.
Yes. Room Saptarini. Okay.
And Lucas as well saying cool.
Cool. Yeah.
So
Okay.
yeah, people is loving it. Comments are still coming in, but we're unfortunately running out of time because we have another
Okay.
session starting in about a bit less than 15 minutes now. So thank you so much, Mirza, once again for joining us. For those watching, we do have a couple of sessions also coming up in less than 15 minutes. So you can stay in the channels where you are right now, and this will come up next as well. And also, I invite everyone to go to the Virtual Congress Hall, where you can also talk with other speakers and experts as well in the IT field. You don't have to, all you have to do is go there, click on the link, and you will have a little avatar in like a 2D world in which you can talk actually with people, them showing your face or not showing your camera if you prefer. But people are still saying congratulations and thank you in the comment sections.
Yes.
Mirza, thank you so much. And I'm going
Thank
to
you.
then finish for today. And thank you so much for joining us and see you next time. Take care.
See you next time. Take care.
Bye.
Bye bye.